Hi, I'm Josh, and I'm here to present on the Thrive Vision. The Thrive Vision is about communities wrapping around families and individuals. A community of friends and families play such an important role in our lives. I remember when I needed a community of friends and my family on one of the most important days of my life, my wedding day. I was busy getting dressed and preparing for the wedding when this thought popped into my mind. One woman. I was about to commit to spending the rest of my life with one woman. Would we get bored with each other? Would she get annoyed with me? Would we be able to make it in the long term? My friends were encouraging me, my family was encouraging me, but still this thought was crossing through my head and repeating in my mind, one woman, one woman. Well, I finished getting ready and I walked down the aisle. I met my best man at the altar and met the pastor and turned around and was waiting for my wife. And this thought kept repeating in my head, one woman, one woman. Could we make it? And then I saw my wife come out and she looked like this. And she looked so beautiful. And her beauty reminded me all the reasons that I love her and the support that we had around us. And I realized one woman. I get to spend the rest of my life with one woman and being supported by an amazing community of friends and family. Well, I've been a pastor for 13 years and working in nonprofit for 10 years. And over that time and directly working with families and individuals, I began to notice some patterns. And this presentation is a result of those patterns. What I began to notice is that families are the basic unit of society. Families are where people learn culture and language and how to relate to others and worldview, and ultimately where they gain the love they need to grow. If families are the basic unit of society, then communities are the basic support structure for families. They are where families gain the care they need for the basic needs that they can't provide for themselves. It's where they gain connections to make friends. It's where they gain a sense of completeness through being mentored by coaches and teachers and coworkers and supervisors to learn the skills they need to do life and work better and to grow in spirit, mind, and body. Community is where people ultimately gain a sense of calling, where they can learn and live out their purpose and begin to serve others and lead and learn their life is not ultimately about them. So what happens is as leaders come together in the community and people come together to wrap around families, families begin to feel supported, and that community and family creates an amazing environment for an individual to thrive. To thrive is to see people intentionally grow toward the fullest potential of who they were uniquely created to be. We all have a potential. Families have a potential. Communities have a potential. And when all of these begin to come together, then we begin to see what I call a feedback loop, that there's thriving communities supporting thriving families and thriving communities and families supporting thriving individuals who then pay forward what they've been given to serve and lead in their community. But what I'm seeing also in my work is that this is not reality. In fact, people are pulling away from community. And as one metric of that, we found that people are volunteering in the US, or people volunteering in the US dropped 4% between 2005 and 2015. This might not sound like much, but it represents 12.6 million people not volunteering and getting involved in their community. That is the population of New York City and Los Angeles, our two most populous cities combined. As people have pulled away from community, families don't feel as supported, and this is having a drastic effect on families. One study found that you're 75% more likely to become divorced if a friend has divorced. This study goes on to talk about all the different situations where families don't feel and married couples don't feel supported. And it would be fair to say, as a result of this, that without a supportive community, couples are more likely to divorce. That's why the American Psychological Association says that 50% of marriages end in divorce. As communities have declined and as families have declined, then this has great effects on the members of the families, specifically the children. A study found that children of divorced parents perform more poorly in reading, spelling, and math. They are more likely to repeat a grade, have higher dropout rates, and lower rates of college graduation. They exhibit more health, behavioral, and emotional problems. They more frequently use drugs and have higher rates of suicide. This is also having effects on the fathers and the children. Right now, according to the US Census, 18.3 million children, or one in four, live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. They say that fatherlessness is a factor in nearly all social ills facing America today. This was echoed in the 2008 Father's Day address by President Barack Obama. He said, "We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit a crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of schools, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They are more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teenage parents themselves, and the foundations of our community are weaker because of it." As a result of people losing a support system of a community and family, they are more isolated. And this graph shows the rise of the one person household over the last 50 years. Not only that, but as generations have become more recent, they've also felt more lonely. And this was taken before COVID 19. COVID 19 has just increased that sense of isolation and loneliness. And of course, this is having effects on people as well. The physical health effects is from a Cygnus study done in 2019 found that disrupted people had disrupted sleep patterns, altered immune systems, more inflammation, and higher levels of stress hormones. They found that isolation increases the risk of heart disease by 29% and stroke by 32%. This is the stat that really impacted me. It said that all told, loneliness is as important a risk factor for early death as obesity and smoking. It's also having effects on people's mental health. 40.1% of those surveyed in a July 2020 survey attested to symptoms of anxiety and or depressive disorder as a result of the pandemic. So this is a lot of numbers, but what really breaks my heart is the names behind the numbers. There was a young couple that moved to Snoqualmie when I was working as an associate pastor at a church there. They came to church and I started connecting with the husband and invited the husband, or actually it was a boyfriend, girlfriend, out to lunch. And as I invited them out to lunch, I paid for their lunch and we had a great time and connecting and talking. And we didn't really connect a lot after that. We texted a little bit, but I didn't really see them too much after that. But 3 months down the line, the boyfriend called me and told me that they didn't have any family or friends in the area and they had been through a stressful time. And as that they went through that stress turned inward and they started arguing more. And one night got in a yelling match and pushed each other and he almost hit her. She kicked him out and they ended up both breaking up and going their separate ways. Well, that's what I'm seeing a lot happen in families. Families are trying to do life by themselves. They don't have a community around them, and that's okay. But when they go through a crisis or a really stressful period of time, if they don't have anybody to vent to, that stress turns inward and they start arguing with each other. And that causes things like divorce and dysfunctions in the family, which then stresses the individuals out. And as the individuals are stressed, they don't give back to the community. And it creates a downward spiral where all begin to decline because of this. And the individuals are left alone to try to reach that potential that we talked about earlier themselves. This triangle is taken from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is often taught in college psychology classes. At the bottom is the most basic needs, and the idea is that you'll need to fill those needs to move to the next needs. So the most basic needs are our physical needs. Beyond that is our need for safety, to not feel like we're being harmed or threatened. And then that a sense of a belonging, that we have people that we, or a group of friends that we feel like we belong to. And then it's really growing in spirit, mind, and body, and growing in our education, and ultimately growing in our identity, which creates another support for us to then learn and live out our purpose to help others, to ultimately realize that our life is not about us, but it's about helping other people. But there are many barriers people face in the path towards that potential. We face skills or our lack of the skills to be able to navigate life. We face the situations of life, whether it's sickness or poverty or some other type of situation. And then we face the systems in our society, whether it's the healthcare system or the welfare system or the educational system. And we have to navigate all of these things to be able to reach toward our potential. But too many of us are trying to do it by ourselves, and the weight is too great for us to make that journey. But I believe if we can organize communities and families to wrap around individuals, people can make it. Put another way, we have everything we need in our community to address or obtain the solutions, but it rises and falls on leadership and civic involvement. This means that we need to organize what the community can provide. And as I said earlier, a community can provide care. In this image, care represents the soil. It represents the thing that can nourish a seed and give it what it needs to grow. And what this means is people need to be in a community where their basic needs can be met. Once they do that, they can build roots, or what is really connections. They can form authentic relationships. Once people begin to have their basic needs met and form some authentic relationships, they can grow in a sense of completeness, which means to intentionally grow in spirit, mind, and body. This is the trunk, because this is what's going to support people to be able to walk in their purpose. And that's their calling. It's walking in the purpose for which all of us were created. And these are the leaves or the fruit of the tree. What does this look like in reality? Well, in reality, this looks like resource navigation. So a community resource navigator working with task forces to navigate people to the resources and services in the community. So a task force might be a hunger task force, where the leaders who serve in providing food to people in need of the community come together, and they identify some of the gaps in services of food to the hungry, and they work together to create innovative solutions to address those gaps. It might be in housing. And interest. And so looking at having events and groups for families, seniors, men's, women's, youth, and children. Also, community can help people grow in a sense of completeness. And so it's gathering teachers and professionals and experts from the community and city to teach classes that grow people's skills. Community provides calling. It provides service projects and a leadership program to help people live out their purpose and learn their lives are not ultimately about them. So this is a graphical representation of that. And we would see that specifically in the connection and completeness areas, that we would be focusing on the different demographics and helping people to connect there, but then also helping people to connect multi-generationally and with anyone. And as the community provides this care, connection, completeness, and calling, that will produce thriving families and thriving lives. This is the most tangible graph we're going to go over. And this one is based on the idea that every one of us has a smartphone. I have an iPhone. And as I was studying, I learned that Steve Jobs, when he was working on with Apple to create the iPhone, he wanted Apple to do everything from start to finish. He wanted Apple to do the hardware, the operating system, and all of the apps. But some of the people that were working for Jobs at the time wanted to open up the operating system to allow third-party developers to create apps. Ultimately, he relented and he decided to unleash the power of everyone. And what we have today now is an app store, and we can say there's an app for that because Steve and his team unleashed the power of everyone to create an app for all the different types of needs and desires that are out there. This idea can apply to community organizing and community development because we can unleash the power of everyone. This vision is too great for any one organization to pull off. But what one organization can do is provide the framework through just like the hardware and the operating system and some of the core apps. So we can provide some of the ideas and framework around how things work. So if there was a lead organization that took this on, they could provide that. They could provide some of the administration, the promotion, and the core programming, and approve the community programs and events through a vetting process to ensure quality and accessibility. So under CARE, for example, the lead organization might provide resource navigation, but the community would provide the task forces of the community leaders coming together to identify what are the services and resources they can provide. In connection, a lead organization might work with organizations in the city to put on events in large groups, but other organizations can also put on events in small groups. A lead organization might provide an introductory class and what it means to thrive, but the community is going to provide classes on things like spirit, mind, and body. A lead organization might provide a community leadership program, but the community will provide service opportunities and leadership roles. So what this looks like then, back to our icon, is when communities come together in task forces and there's a community resource navigator to navigate families and individuals to those services and resources, that can then wrap around families, and we would create family programs. I have one I started called Family Life Together, where we do some food and games to connect people, and then we do a teaching on a topic that's relevant to families on things like finances or fitness. And then we have people break up to connect even more in small groups. This could be also applied to adult or senior programs or youth or children's programs. We could do Thrive classes, which is those classes to see people grow in spirit, mind, and body. We could do service opportunities, and ultimately we could do a leadership program for people to give back. And we can create thriving communities, thriving families, and thriving lives. In doing this, we would begin to help people that are financially struggling find care for their basic needs. We'd help people that are isolated and alone find authentic connections and friendships. We'd help people caught in unhealthy patterns break free and find holistic health to grow. We'd help people struggling to stay married to see their legacy as grandparents together and to stay together all of those years to see everything they could accomplish together. We'll see lost parents learn how to raise their children into loving and successful adults. And ultimately, we will grow thriving communities, thriving families, and thriving lives. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and I pray that you'll join me in some way, whether that's through just your feedback or through your financial contribution, or even getting involved in one of the many volunteer positions we're going to need to make Thrive Center a reality. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.